In the 21st century, proper cars aren't allowed. I've seen the commuter sector bite the dust. Saloon cars are long gone, and don't even mention estates. But one type of car has survived the prying eyes of the authorities: sports cars. This is the Lotus Elise, and she's still around because of one very important factor: fun. Back to the 20th century for just a little while longer, and the Lotus Elise is definitely one car that offers plenty of driving thrills. And as this obsession for using alternative types of fuel and, of course, the dreaded public transport continues, I don't think it will be too long before we have a sensible but very dull car that gets us from A to B, and we own something like a Lotus Elise as a little plaything for the weekend. After all, Lotus make cars that really have just one aim: that they're fantastic to drive and, of course, fantastic to look at. Even the petrol cap is just beautifully designed. Oh yes, I'd be more than happy to have the Elise adorning my driveway, and even happier to take it out for a weekend spin. There's just one problem: getting in. Because the Elise is so low to the ground, you have to kind of step down into it, and that means that there's absolutely no ladylike way of doing it. And if you think that was bad, then you should see me getting out. And on the inside, well, as I've already said, Lotus aren't too bothered about gizmos or gadgets. What you get is very comfortable sports seats, lots of exposed metal, and that's about it. If you're the kind of person that wants the wipers to turn themselves on for you, and you're rather partial to a few cup holders, then this isn't the car for you. This is the car for you, however, if you enjoy driving. It simply oozes pleasure with every one of the 143 brake horsepower that you'll get from the 1.8 litre engine that's been borrowed from Rover. 0 to 60 takes 5.5 seconds, and the top speed is 133 miles per hour. But perhaps the most impressive figure is the 14.4 seconds that it takes to reach 100, a figure that could put some supercars to shame. And remember, all of this is in a car that's not too distant a relation to a go-kart. If it's power-to-weight ratio you're after, then you can't do better than the Elise. On the road, the Elise simply begs to be pushed. Now, it doesn't feel incredibly quick, but it does feel very eager. You have the most fun in the mid-range, flicking up and down the slick little gearbox, and it's very at home on some lively country roads. The handling really feels second to none. Steering is very tight, very direct. Just a flick of the wrist sends you where you want to go. And because you're so low to the ground, you feel incredibly involved in the drive. Just remember, though, that the Elise is, just as it should be, rear-wheel drive, but it has a tendency to get rather twitchy in the wet. The Elise is such fantastic fun to drive that it's bound to be around long into the new millennium. You see, when we're all driving to work in tin cans that run on potato fuel, we're going to need something to have a little bit of fun in at the weekend. But now it's over to Ian for some technical stuff. And I'm sorry, Ian, I'm sure it's going to be very useful in the future, but I'm afraid that I'd rather have a play.